why that's even a thing.
We don't
Why
get
does-
it.
Hi, YouTube. YouTube, tell us. I mean, somebody tell us. Like,
Why do we need to change the time?
It's just all it does is jack our like everything up.
And like, what is it? Is this the time it's supposed to be?
Is this the real time, or is it an hour behind, or is it an hour ahead? What is it?
What is the real
What time is it? Time is what is it? Time is not irrelevant. Time is
It doesn't even exist.
it doesn't. Oh, don't get us started. Here we go. We're just really struggling.
All we're saying is like, let's stop.
I need a nap.
Things. I need a nap. I'm really tired. Really tired. I don't know. Is anybody else going through this? Please share.
Is anybody having it, or is it just us being big babies? Like, I don't know. I just don't want to get up in the morning, and I want to go to bed at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Why is that?
What is going on? All right. So there's that, and then I think I've said this before, but like Tuesdays and Thursdays are the only day that I look like this. So if you see me anywhere and you'll be like, oh my God, that's what she really looks like. But it takes I wash my hair not much. I don't care what you say. I don't care what the comments say. Like, my hairstylist says, my hair magician says I don't have to.
Yeah.
But I think I've taken it to an extreme. Like, I
so
had
she doesn't say, she says you don't have to watch it every day, but you say I don't have to wash it.
Like, ever. So yesterday I have on my messy bun toboggan, and like I take it off, and my hair just stays like that, like up there. Anyway, all right. So the show today.
Yes.
Let's talk about the show.
Well, I want to go back to the hair washing thing. Okay, just really quick because I'm going to relate it to recovery, my recovery. So, when I was. I'm just going to say, like, just in this deep, dark hole that I was in for a while, self-care was, I just couldn't muster the energy to do it. I didn't care.
Yeah.
And now I'm like the opposite. Like, I'm showering 2 or 3 times a day and just
so like, you got to do everything all the way or not at all.
So all or nothing. I go all in or I can't even do it.
I'm kind of like that too.
And then it's not that bad. It used to be really, really bad, but it's not as bad as that.
Well, have we discussed why we're late though? Why we're really late?
So the reason why we're late is I got pulled over and I got a ticket.
She got a ticket. She didn't say it loud enough.
I got a ticket, a speeding ticket, because I was definitely speeding, because I was late. Anyway, so
like 20 over. Like,
yeah. 20 over the speed limit. I was going 65 and 45.
And that whole thing about being cute and pretty or whatever and getting out of a ticket
did not work.
Not legit. That doesn't work.
Brad says about the time change. He said, time change, it's like cutting a foot off the top of a blanket and sewing it to the bottom of the blanket and saying the blanket is longer. And like, yeah.
Seriously.
Yes.
Like,
how crazy.
No, it's still the same damn time. And I'm like, I was already tired. So now I'm even more tired because I've convinced myself that it's a different time than it really is. Like, it's that whole time-space continuum thing. Like, whatever. I'm over it. So.
All right. So the show today.
Everything's falling out of my ears.
All right. So today we're going to be talking to Tim Fitzpatrick. He does a podcast with recovery speakers. So we're going to talk to him about that. And they've had amazing guests on their show. They've had Brandon Novak.
Right.
Yeah. Just like some really amazing people. And so I'm really excited to talk to him. And then we're going to have Duke from Sober AF Entertainment. And the acronym is SAFE. And what they do is they put on these.
I love that acronym.
Isn't that awesome? And what they do is they put on these great tailgates for sober people, So it's just so cool.
Isn't that cool, you guys? Like, I mean, some of you probably won't think it's very cool, but like sober tailgates. And we're going to actually
if you're
attend.
listening to this show, you'll probably think it's cool, though.
I hope so. We're gonna attend some. Like we have
Right.
made some plans to go
Yes.
and
And
check that out.
it's going to be amazing. I'm
I
really
hope they have good
excited.
food because that's really what I go to
That's
that stuff for is the
yes.
food.
Exactly.
All right.
So the
So
food and yeah.
and yeah.
And
See how
yeah.
tired we are? It's
So
like our
tired. I
brains.
apologize. I'm just like
But and that we were talking about this earlier. Like we call each other and we check in, and we're always just kind of like we're just very, and we always feel the exact same way when we call each other,
yes.
and we're usually like super up and positive and spreading all the light and the love. And today we were like, I feel like shit.
Yeah. So
And so we're sitting with you
us too.
and that like this
Yeah.
is authentic, original who we are. I'm just not feeling good,
Yeah.
And I come here, this is
Okay.
one of the places. This is one of my like this is how I deal with life. Like I
Heck
come
yeah.
here and I get real with you guys and you know we've got our hands in a lot of different things. I don't
We're doing a lot.
we are, and we're doing it because we're called to do it and because we love it and it brings us joy. But we've just kind of decided, we do this together.
Mhm.
And I've just, as we've talked, we're opening up Never Too Late, which was originally a nonprofit for mental health and suicide prevention awareness. We've now decided to join forces and make it recovery as well. So Never Too Late is going to also be offering recovery support groups here in the local Covington area.
Yes.
We are delighted to get into that community and offer another way. I know, we've got the AA and the NA and the different recovery programs around
And
here.
they
We
are
are not knocking
beautiful and they
those,
are
and that's
wonderful and I
yes,
wouldn't be here without that.
right,
And I have all the gratitude and love for that those
absolutely,
programs in the entire
absolutely.
universe. I would never speak badly
Nope,
about them or
nope, nope,
anything
nope,
like that. I think that they serve a beautiful purpose and always have.
absolutely.
We just want to offer another level of acceptance and just do something a little bit different. And a lot of those 12-step programs, they're not for everybody, so
That's right.
that they need something. Other people need something too. You know what I mean? And we just want to offer that. That's all.
We talk about this all the time. People that are facing neurodiversity and are in recovery for anything, whatever it is, not our message that we spread is there's something out there for everyone. Not everyone's recovery is the same. Not everyone's
Exactly.
thought processes are the same. And that's why we do the show because there's so many different avenues out there, and we love that this is the platform to share. So we have our own, methodology.
Yes.
Did that come out right?
Yeah,
Gosh, I had to
absolutely.
struggle with
And
it for a minute.
I think also is that there's a lot of maybe personalities and things that we just wanted to get I personally, in the recovery community, I just want to offer something that's not out there yet. You know what I mean? And we have the 12 step, we have Celebrate Recovery. Those are the two big ones.
Absolutely.
And Celebrate
Absolutely.
Recovery is 12 step. If you don't know that,
Yeah,
they
and
just
I would love
yeah.
to have them on the show.
Yes,
Just because
absolutely.
if
I
that
don't want to knock out anybody
no
chooses
no
to
no no no
recover. That
no
is so your
no
business,
no
and
no
it is so more power to you if you're just trying. I mean, I
right.
don't as long as you're trying. I mean, you're beautiful. You're magic. I think. But this is just another option. That's all. That's all.
And I hadn't made the announcement on the page, on the Never Too Late page of the website yet, but I just wanted to kind of tell you guys that if you're looking for something in the local area, we're building the program right now, so we haven't really released it, but we will have our first meeting as dual forces on November 20th,
20th, yeah.
Wednesday, November 20th at American Realty from 6 to 7 on the square. We're going to kind of focus on tools and resources to kind of have gratitude even when you don't feel like having it. I think we're going to look into getting some free turkeys for families. So if you
Yes.
come out, then
We will have a free
we'll
turkey
have free
for you.
turkeys for you
Yes.
to celebrate Thanksgiving with. And so if you know anyone that needs that, have them come on out. We're really excited. We are doing something new and different and living life out loud.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing. And I could not possibly imagine doing it with anyone besides you.
Oh.
Now we also have Tracy Mask, who she's amazing with all the things that we are not.
Yes.
And it is actually, she donates the upper floor, or her and her husband donate the upper floor of American Realty to us so that we can hold these meetings. And my other business partner, through the consulting firm that we have, Cheryl Body, she's also a part of our team too. So be watching for big things to happen here in the community. And this is just another avenue, for us to do what we love and do
Exactly.
it for you guys. So
Yes. So
be watching.
be watching.
Be watching.
Very excited.
I know we don't sound very excited.
We are so excited.
We're
y'all.
so excited. Thursday we'll probably have our stuff together a little bit more. We have to actually be on time because we're going to have an in studio guest, Marsha.
Yes, Marsha Lynn. Y'all, I am so, so, so excited about this. Oh, we have our caller.
Oh, we'll talk about,
We'll
it,
talk
later.
about it later. Hello?
Hi, how's it going?
Great. Is this Tim?
It is.
Hey, Tim.
Hi,
How are you
Tim.
doing?
Good, how are you?
We are doing great. So you're live on the air and you're talking to me and Christina. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm just having a relaxing day and getting a little bit of work done, but good to have a break here.
He's doing better than
Absolutely.
we are.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah,
struggling.
we were
Yeah,
just talking
but
about we were late to the show today. I got a ticket. I got a speeding ticket. So
Right.
yeah,
this is why we
that's
schedule people at 2:30
Right.
to
right.
call it.
Because we
Yeah.
know that we're
We
going to
just
be
know.
late
We need to give
sometimes.
ourselves some grace. So
Yeah,
why
well,
don't
I'm
you?
honored to be on. I want to thank you
Well,
for
thank you.
having me do this.
Yes,
Well,
we're
we're
honored to
honored.
have you. Um, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, Recovery Speakers, and if you'd like, you could tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, it's probably best to start with my story a little bit and just how I led into Recovery Speakers. And it all started. I was originally from Buffalo, New York, and I, for a long time, blamed uh, everything in my life on outside circumstances. And even my first year of sobriety, I carried that through. And I was lucky to be around so many great people with long term sobriety and really helped me to see that my problems were of my own making. And, I had a good life growing up. When I see it now, it's amazing that when I look back, that I had a much better childhood than I originally thought.
Right.
And I was given everything I ever wanted. I grew up skateboarding, snowboarding, playing sports, and had a lot of great friends. And life was good. And but I always had that insecurity of not being good enough. And going back to when I was 12 years old, it's the first time I drank, and it was a really funny circumstance. But it was my parents are out of town. I have a bunch of friends over, and my older brother's there, and he's 3 years older than me. And I always had the insecurity of my friends only hang out with me to be around my brother.
Right.
And they're out in the backyard and they're smoking weed out of an apple, and I'm like just so full of self-pity, and I'm laughing at them, but I'm like, I will never do that. I don't want to smoke weed. And they convinced me to drink. So my brother opens up a bottle of tequila from my parents' wedding, which was like 16 years before that. And he pours me a shot, and I take it, and I instantly vomit all over my kitchen. And my reaction is what I see today is what, the alcoholic reaction, where the first instinct is that was disgusting, but I need to mix that with some orange juice and drink as much as I can right now.
Right.
And I got the relief immediately. I was happy. I was outside. I was riding my bike around in circles with, just no cares in the world of anything else going on. All of the fears and insecurities were gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in love with life again. And, at 12 years old, I wasn't a daily drinker, but, every chance I got, that's what I did to get out of the insecurities and fears. And, up until I got sober when I was 23. And, it led to progression. It was, alcohol, weed, painkillers, the Xanax, and eventually led me to, my last 8 months of using was a combination of fentanyl patches and heroin. And, it's not a way to sustain life. And, I, I heard there's no one co-signs social heroin use, and it's just not a
Not like
thing.
Coke
And
or anything, right?
yeah.
Right.
So what happened? I was completely broken, and I had no options. Up to that point, I never made it to a 12-step meeting. I never made it to rehab or detox. My detox was, laying in bed and just hating the world and hating myself and just being sick and, just waiting it out until I can find some money to go get high again.
Right.
And, what happened was circumstances. For a long time in sobriety, I thought it was, virtue that got me sober, that it was, it was my journey that, I'm making the decision that, I want to live a sober life and I want to help others. And, that's just not what it was. It was complete circumstantial of my life being completely broken. No one wanted to be around me anymore. And, it was no health insurance. I just lost my job a week before I got sober. And I had nowhere to live. And fortunately, in my life and my family, addiction and alcoholism is pretty prevalent. So my grandfather, he ended up getting sober in the 1960s in AA. My grandmother was a member in Al-Anon for 48 years by the time she passed. And I have a couple uncles that are sober in AA. And, family was there to carry the message of recovery. And, my father, he didn't know what to do with me. So, he called, my uncle Mike, and he lived in Arizona. I was in New York. And, the magic words were shared with me, and that was someone getting down to my level, and just a quick phone call where it was, "Are you willing to do anything to never feel this way you're feeling ever again?"
Right.
And being completely, dope sick and hopeless, and feeling like accepted the fact that the rest of my life I was going to be a drug addict and continue to go through the cycle over and over and over again of, get a job, go to school, drop out, lose the job, do it again. And over and over, I just accepted it. And as I'm on this phone call with my uncle, he offers me 30 days to live in Arizona, go to a few meetings, and see if I want to get sober. And to me, it was, the solution of what I thought I needed was, Adderall for energy, Xanax for the anxiety, Adderall for, so I can focus and show up to work and work while I'm at work, and be on Suboxone, and life will be good.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was something that I didn't even know was possible. And I just walked into, I don't know, a situation that I just didn't think was available for a person like me. And, I say it all the time when I'm in meetings, but I always thought of recovery and rehab for celebrities and rich people. It wasn't for people like me.
Right.
And even though recovery was in my own family and I saw it, I was still, I didn't think it was possible. And So it was May 18th, 2013, and I get on an airplane. I show up in Arizona. I'm drunk, of course, and I was told, because I was in denial of my alcoholism at the time. I completely thought that I was physically addicted to opiates, and alcohol and other substances aren't a problem.
Right.
And and I still see that with so many people today, and it's one of the hardest things to get people to see. And so the week before I came out to Arizona, my uncle suggested, don't drink for the next week if you're only a drug addict. You don't have a problem with alcohol. So I didn't touch any other drug besides alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was drunk every day, drunk on the airplane. And, I had this idea that, a few meetings, that's like 5 over a span of 30 days. And
Perfect.
my uncle picks me up at the airport, and he drives me straight to a meeting. And, and this is where I see, God working in my life. I thought that, AA was old people in a church basement hugging and crying. I
Right.
did not know what recovery was.
That's Al-Anon. I can say that because I'm a member.
Right. Oh man, I love that. And it's funny because the years before I got sober, it was the only commitment I was ever able to show up for was every Tuesday I would go over to my grandmother's house, and it's Buffalo, so it would be shovel or driveway or help outside. and but I'd go over there and I'd help her out around the house, and then we'd go out to dinner. And every time I'd see her, she'd always say, "I'm praying for you." And I just look at her like, "Why are you praying for me? Like, I'm fine. Like, don't worry about it.
I got
I
this.
got it under control."
Right.
And it's amazing because she dropped me off at the airport on my way out to Arizona to get sober. And she's, the one person that she saw it all along. And it's sad, but it's also beautiful that, that was the last time that I saw her, because she passed away my 90th day sober.
Mm.
And but it really was an amazing experience that I was able to have those commitments, and then I was able to see that people truly care, and that Al-Anons are absolutely amazing and do everything they can to be firm but help.
Right.
And she tried getting me to read some literature and find out if I'm an alcoholic, and I'd always turn down that option. But so yeah, I show up in Arizona, and the first meeting I go to is a Cocaine Anonymous meeting, and it's in Tempe, Arizona. It's called Saturday Night Live, and at the time it's in a big I don't know, church auditorium basketball court that 300 to 400 people would go to every week. And it's the majority of the fellowship is younger people. It's high energy. It's the complete opposite of what I thought recovery was. And immediately, when I look back at that meeting, I had the experience of the first 3 steps where I was completely hopeless. I saw the unmanageability and powerlessness in my life. And I walked into a meeting, and I saw happy people. I saw people that looked sober, and I believed them when they were talking. And I came to believe that this thing can work for me. And I made that decision. I'm going to go through with this process. I'm going to go to meetings. I'm going to try to get sober. And I had no idea at the time that's what happened, but when I look back, that's the experience that I had. And, leading into recovery speakers a little bit, I, living with my uncle, he got sober in Texas, and with guys that were 80 years old. He was living on a guy's, the the guy that helped him out gave him the bedroom and he took the couch. And he's, over 40 years sober and, gives my uncle, who was 25, the bedroom. But his friend had the Midwest Tape Library, which was all recordings of AA conventions and speaker talks and all kinds of the historic recordings of, the pioneers of recovery. And it's thousands of these recordings, and they'd go and hang out there and spend their afternoons listening to recordings. And, in about 15 years ago now, my uncle was able to purchase all of this Midwest Tape Library after Bill O, who owned it, passed away. And so I'm getting sober in my uncle's house, and he's got an entire office filled with reel-to-reels of AA speaker recordings. And he's in the middle of a process of getting them all digitized and uploading them onto the Recovery Speakers website. And part of me living with my uncle was to help out. And, I had a couple chores living at his house, and that was to clean his pool and pick up the dog crap in the backyard. And he had 4 dogs. And so it was an everyday chore.
Yep.
So, and it's actually a funny story because I didn't even know how to pick up dog crap. He had to take me out in the backyard and show me how to do it.
How were you doing it? How were you doing it?
I'm curious.
Grocery bags. No shovel.
Oh, I didn't know there was like a right way.
There is.
I've been doing it wrong too, apparently.
Man, just not with your hand.
Oh,
well.
Okay.
Yeah, I give my kids gloves, and we do the grocery bag,
That's what I do.
And my son was picking it up with the glove and then putting it in the grocery bag. I'm like, baby, hold on. There is a wrong way.
There's a wrong
There
way
is a
to
wrong
pick up dog poop.
And seriously, when I was a kid, it was, I had a shovel and I'd fling it over the neighbor's fence.
Right,
And,
of course.
that was the solution. It wasn't, throw it in the garbage can.
Why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was brought into this situation, and recovery in Arizona is pretty huge. It's, hundreds of treatment centers all around Phoenix. And a large majority is, heroin addicts and younger people that are, suffering from the opiate epidemic. And, I fit right into the culture of recovery in Arizona with, a large population in Heroin Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous and, open AA meetings that are, receptive of drug addicts.
Right.
And, so I was bought in from the beginning. And, there's only a couple issues that I had in the beginning, and it was, believing that I was an alcoholic and not just a drug addict. And I held on for that, I don't know, the delusion of, someday I'll be able to drink alcohol again and be able to control it. And, about 45 days in, I, brought that up with my sponsor, and he's like, well, let's take a look at your drinking history. And, at that point, I'm writing an inventory. I'm doing my 4th step, but I still think I'm not an alcoholic.
Right.
And at this time, I'm going to meetings every day. I have friends in recovery. I'm hearing what people are saying, and I'm starting to relate a little bit. And, I was finally just open and honest with what's going on inside my head. And who knows where I'd be today if I was never honest about it. And so we went back to my very first experience with alcohol that I opened up with, and led that through to me getting sober and all of my experiences that I could remember with alcohol. And that delusion was smashed as a result of that. It was like a 3-hour conversation focused on my experience. And, I was just fully just could see the progression of each time. And, the time that, I had a couple beers and smoked a joint and went to bed after and no issues. That was rare and, far in between circumstances, and,
But you can kind of convince yourself, like, I did it. Like, I can do that. I can do
yeah,
it. I can have like a drink and a joint and I can do it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's like another thing is like alcohol is my drug of no choice.
Yeah.
I always figured, opiates and I loved cocaine and ecstasy and acid. And I always thought those were my drugs of choice because, those were the ones that I loved to do all the time. And I failed to see that alcohol was a part of my daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, the thing that was just put to the back of my mind and just never even thought about it because it was so acceptable to just drink alcohol every day. And I finally saw that, a couple months into my sobriety. And, I love sharing this story. It was, like I said, I didn't know how to pick up dog crap. I wasn't really capable of working working a job at the time, and just wasn't very responsible. And I had to learn a few things. And so my first sober job, um, I met a friend, and his father, he owned a medical supply company and had a little warehouse where he stored stethoscopes.
Uh-huh.
And my job was to sit at a desk, open up a box, and it was thousands of stethoscopes. And they're all kind of cheap. They're all made in China and just sent over, and who knows if they work. And the way that you test it is to turn the knob, and if it clicks, it's good. If it doesn't click, it's garbage.
Right.
And so I'd sit at this desk for, 5 to 8 hours, a few days a week, and I would. It's funny. At the time, I still had an iPod, and I loaded it up with all kinds of speaker recordings out of my uncle's library,
Uh-huh.
and that was a huge part of my sobriety because all the things that were going on in my head was I'm never going to amount to anything. Life sucks. I can't believe all of the things that I did, filled with guilt and shame of the way that I was in my addiction.
Right.
And, to have, a few days a week of just constant positive and a lot of times, funny things that I was listening to and completely helped with changing my mindset in early recovery. And so I was passionate about it, and it was something that I loved to do. And conventions were a huge part of my sobriety, especially my first 6 months of going to the Young Peoples of AA convention, and we did a retreat up in Prescott, Arizona. That was a CA. It's called We Treat, and being able to just be around a community of people that are all there for the same purpose of recovery and having fun and just bringing light to the situation and helping the new people. And it was just something that I was drawn to and have a great respect for um, the work and the things that people do in recovery of traveling across the country to speak at a convention. And that's something that with this library that has been turned into Recovery Speakers audio library is so much of the past and the history of recovery is held in there that no one's ever heard other than when they were there.
Right.
And that's been the purpose of Recovery Speakers for the last 10 years, and specifically the last 2 years where we've dumped a lot more of time and resources into this. And we just want to share all of this stuff with as many people as possible. And something that, a lot of people find fascinating. And, our oldest recording goes back to, I want to say, 1946.
Wow.
And that was.
Wow, you just don't even think like that it's that old,
I
that it's been
know.
around that
Oh, it's
long.
older than that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Amazing.
it's, a lot of the recordings are wire recordings as well,
Right.
where
Wow.
it's, there's one that I think it's one of the coolest ones is Bill Wilson playing a violin, and it's recorded on a wire.
That's amazing.
And I believe that it's just them sitting in a living room, relaxing and playing the violin and recording it.
Wow.
And
And
it's pretty wild
I
to.
love what y'all do too, because like even here in our own meetings, sometimes I have to go outside of my area or different meetings. I mainly do NA and AA, but sometimes I like to go to HA, MA, CA, to hear a different message, because I always hear something different, or it's maybe the same message, but it's said in a way that I just resonate with so much more. And I think that that's just so cool. One of the things I did whenever I couldn't get to a meeting, I would listen to a speaker tape because sometimes it's even better, like an hour of somebody's story, and it's
And I mean,
amazing.
sometimes maybe you don't want to go to a meeting. You can't be around people. I don't know. Like there are times when I needed to always to detach.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean I wouldn't want to be a part of my recovery or whatever that looks like, but
Right.
I just can't be around people at that moment, So to be able to do that, have that
It's
as an
it's a great,
option.
Absolutely,
yeah, it's a
yeah.
great option, I think. And you really have to start meeting people where they're at, and not saying,
You have to do it
right,
this way or you're
I've
not
I've
recovering.
never I've never, I don't know, followed the rules, I guess.
We're rule breakers.
um, I don't know. I've just kind of always, since I was a little kid. I mean, not like I was a bad kid or anything. I just, if it didn't resonate with my soul, I didn't do it. And I didn't tell you I wasn't going to do it. I just didn't do it.
Right.
I mean, I didn't put up a fuss or anything. I was just like, I'm not doing that.
No,
Yeah.
I completely understand where it's. I like to rebel against what's good for me.
Exactly. Especially if it's good for me.
Right.
Like
Like,
Yeah,
not
who
eating this
wants to do
broccoli.
that?
yeah, right. And yeah, that definitely is one of the cool things that it's. Um, I didn't have a car my first year of sobriety, so
Mm.
there was a lot of times I wasn't able to get to a meeting. None of my friends could come pick me up, and I wasn't able to just get there. That it was nice to be able to just sit at home and listen to a recording, and that was my meeting for the night.
That's
I
absolutely
think that there's and I think we put so much emphasis on, like we said, like these are the rules. If
right.
you don't do these things, then you're not in recovery, or we'll kick you out, or whatever that
We'll
looks
kick you.
like.
They
We'll
don't
kick you
kick
out.
you.
I'm just well, there's always like stipulations and rules and that sort of
Yes.
thing. I mean, as long as you're not using, and you're like, I just need this space, and you just sit here in this space, or maybe I just want to have one person over, and not be in a room full of people.
Hmm.
Like meeting people where they're at always.
Always.
No,
And
I completely understand, and I had and I love treatment, and I worked in the recovery field for 5 years, and I think that's one of the things that it's necessary
mhm,
to maintain control of groups of anywhere from 10 to 100 alcoholics and drug addicts in the same facility, that
right.
you need strict guidelines, but a lot of times that's just not the way recovery really is.
Right.
And where people make mistakes, especially people that have very little life skills and live off of warped instincts, and needing the instant
Survival mode.
gratification. Yeah. And it's but it is one of those things where there's no perfect exact way to get sober. There's
Right.
plenty of other resources and other ways to do it, and and it's not you shouldn't get punished for not doing something that, another way that someone else does it.
that not only may not work for you, but may push you towards relapse. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying there could
absolutely.
be, I don't know. I mean, and y'all have to understand, I've not ever went through an actual recovery program, so I can't speak for that because I've never been, I had to do things on my own way, but I just and that's probably one of the reasons is because it's just like F the rules. If you're telling me if I have to do this certain way, I'm always like the outside of the box thinker, and I want to see
Mhm.
like this is how society says to do it, and I've
Right.
never really done anything that way in the first place.
And I'm
So
not about to start.
not gonna start now.
Well,
Right.
I think even like just, the beginning of AA, it was such a just giant leap of faith, and it was kind of like against the rules because the rules said that addicts are addicts and they're always going to
Hmm.
be, a junkie's a junkie, always going to be a junkie. Can't change. And somebody said,
Absolutely.
"No, we can."
That's not true.
And
Right.
and here's how we can. And so the very beginning was just all about rule breaking. And we don't have rules in our 12-step programs. And that's the beauty of it. We have suggestions.
That's right.
And
Suggestions.
traditions and steps.
Right.
There's
And
not.
that's one cool thing that you just reminded me of is with a couple of these older recordings. It's one of Dr. Bob's son, and he'd go by Smitty, and he ended up being a member in Al-Anon. And he shares a great story about the beginning of AA, of Dr. Bob and Bill first getting together and being driven to help other alcoholics. And
Right.
most people know the story of AA number 3, who was Bill Dodson.
Hmm.
And the thing that the majority of people don't know about is that there was a guy that they tried to help before Bill that they never really talked about much because it was a failure, because the guy got committed into an institution. He was, um, I want to say he escaped. They were staying at Dr. Bob's house. He escaped and made it to Cleveland and called them and said he was going to kill themselves unless they get there to pick him up. And it's really a fascinating story, but it's something that gets left out of AA history. And that's something that I see now is that AA is built off of failures and not off of successes.
Hmm.
And it's, how many people come in, they get introduced to recovery, and then they relapse. And it's not that their journey is over. It's, maybe it did work. Maybe they just needed to experience a little bit more, and they got a little bit of an introduction of what can be possible for people in recovery, or maybe they
Right.
need to go a different route, do something else to get their life back on track.
Right. And I think that
And
you hit the nail on the head. It's a beautiful introduction to recovery. It's a beautiful possibility. Some people just don't believe in possibility for themselves.
absolutely, and
Yet.
that
Yet.
was my struggle. I never
Yeah.
thought that I was capable of having a good life.
Right. I think that's all, honestly, I meet more people who believe that than don't, just people in
Yeah,
general. We all struggle with, our self-worth and, um, it's just like something learned like on the playground, I think, we're made
or
fun of
childhood
for,
trauma or whatever
yes,
it
we're
is.
always told that we're not good enough. And even, and it's not our parents' fault. Okay. It is not our parents' fault. But, even like the parenting that we, was passed down to them and then, they don't know any other way. And so, they just do what they know. We're not all
It's
taught,
programming, part of
right.
our, products of our environment. We don't, this is just the way it's always been. You don't
Exactly.
question it, you just do.
Just do.
And that moment
Mm-hmm.
for us, well, me, I can speak personally. I know probably Chrissy feels the same way. The moment that I was able to like look outside of that and say, I don't never really fit into this mold. I've always known it didn't have to be this
Right.
way. You know, it changes everything when you change your
Absolutely.
mindset that way, that anything is possible. And, you know, just hearing these stories all across the nation, and I know it stems all across the world, but anything is possible. These stories that we've
Yeah.
heard are like wow, what? Like,
Right. Well, it's impossible until somebody does it, right?
right.
And then you're like, oh, shit.
Okay. Well, if that
Well,
person
they
can
can
do
do it.
it,
I
I
can
can
do
do it.
it.
Yeah.
Did we ever think that we were going to fly? No. Did we ever think that we were going to have a device that could give us all the information that we've ever wanted to know in the entire universe? But we have that now. And if all that is possible in the last couple of 100 years, just think about what's possible for you in your life in this moment,
Right. Right. You know?
God, I'm
It,
sorry.
it and I
Absolutely.
live in
Yeah.
that state of mind all of the time. And I have no reason to. I mean, according to the normal person, but I'm always like, you know what? It's okay. It'll be okay. Like,
Right. I
like,
know. I know. I know. You know, um,
I
my
mean, you
dad
got a
sometimes
speeding
he'll,
ticket today, and you're like,
yeah.
it'll be okay.
I did. I said, I'm going to find out. I said, I'm going to have plenty of money to pay this. It's going to be
Fine.
fine. Those were my words to her.
But you before you had that mindset
Yeah,
change where like would
absolutely.
have freaked out.
Oh
And
gosh.
we still have that. I mean, I still kind of connect with my old programming, like you said, like I'm about to cry. And I remember thinking, but that's not who you are now.
Yeah.
And it was immediate, like,
Well, I am a crier.
well, no,
Let's
I mean, no,
not.
I'm a crier too, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
the worry is kind of
Yeah.
what
The
makes
worry.
you,
I have let go of so much worry in my life. That's one of the greatest things about just working on yourself in general, is that you get to see these. I mean, even actually in my addiction, I was always taken care of in this kind of weird way, not always, it's kind of just getting me to a place where I could change, getting me to
Yeah.
this state of like, okay, Chrissy, it's obvious now that you definitely have a problem. I lost everything a couple times, but it was really, the loss of, my kids, and then later the loss of almost my life that really made the biggest impact, where it was just like, I got to live without this because I can't live with it.
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And it's something that I love what you're talking about is because my sponsor, he passed away in March, but he was, 46 years sober at the time when he passed, and over 80 years old. And one thing that he talked about all the time and just stressed upon me is that um, how much of the fear and anxiety that I carried around in all of my life through, even just growing up and in my addiction and all of the circumstances and events of my life that never came to happen.
Right.
And it was just the mindset that I was in. And now that I've been through all of these circumstances and events, I can look back and I can see that the best possible outcome came out of all of that.
Right.
And I can see that God has been guiding me through all of those circumstances and events, and that I have a beautiful life today, and it's my responsibility to be aware of that instead of carrying around that fear and anxiety today.
Right.
And it's amazing to see that, like, anything I say is not original. I am not. I'm
We're
not
just
the
all
smartest
reusing each
person
other's
around.
stuff.
Absolutely. Nothing's original anymore.
And but seriously, it's one of those lessons that it's one of the great people that have been involved in my life and my recovery that has allowed me to see something that I never paid attention to, and see that so much of the fear that I would carry around, just it's not real. And take the time in meditation to look at my life and see all of the great things that have came about as a result of times that I thought were the worst possible things that could ever happen in my life.
Right.
And like, especially coming into recovery, where it's usually for most people the worst day of their life. And when I look back on it now, it's like the best day of my life.
Right.
Crazy how that
It
happens. I've had a few
changes.
of those in my life,
Absolutely.
like sitting in that mess and thinking, I'll never get out of this. I mean,
Yeah.
getting the DUI and being in jail and coming out of it, like all the money and everything that I was like, I'm never going to recover from this. This is one of those things that's going to debilitate me for the rest of my life. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Did it take me a couple of years to
Absolutely.
see that? Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's
But,
okay.
you know,
Well,
that
they say hindsight is 2020. You don't
mhm.
see it when you're in it.
No, you don't. You can't, you
I
know?
I remember, one of the best things that ever happened to me was when I was in treatment, which I had been in a bunch of treatments, but this is the one that kind of took. And I was like, yes, I'm getting my life together in there like 5 days or something. And I found out in one phone call, I lost custody of my kids. I lost everything that I owned. And the person I was married to made the front page of the newspaper and was arrested. And that, looking back on that, I am so thankful for that. You know what I mean? Because I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. And I almost left that day I found out because I was like, oh, I got to fix this. And, people told me, you're not fixed. You fix you, and all that will come.
So true. And we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear, we
I don't want to hear
do.
the truth.
No. And it's still hard for me. It's easier. It's so much easier now. Like I can face things that I need to
Right.
change head on and be like, okay, that's okay. I love those parts about who I am too. It's just so much growth that happens. And, I was just kind
Absolutely.
of thinking on all these different programs. It is, we've touched the surface of reprogramming who we are with these different options. Chrissy, you and I know that it goes so much deeper than that, but you know, I'm just so thankful that there are all of these options. There are all of these unique stories. There are people standing out in recovery, standing up and standing out and saying, look, if you don't have to stay in that addiction. This addiction does not have to overtake your life. You do not have to sit here and stay here in this.
Right.
Let me tell you my story and let me tell you what I've done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Let's
It's
just
okay
talk.
to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, we so appreciate you coming on today. Is there anything else you want to say or anything before we go?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, we're always growing our audio library and continuing to grow, and
Mm-hmm.
there's been, you know, the library originated with about 3,000 recordings, and
Amazing.
now it's doubled from all of
Wow.
the recent recordings of other fellowships, because it originated with AA and Al-Anon, and now we have 6 different 12-step fellowships with recordings on our website, and people continue to send in more. And so if anyone listening is interested in sending in your recording, or if you want to type up and send just a version or a blog of your story, feel free to email to info@recoveryspeakers.com, and also check us out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And every day we're sharing more content and more recordings, and it's a great community to be a part of, and it's continuing to grow. And if anyone wants to be a part of it, feel free to check us out and enjoy all of the stuff that we're doing.
I
Yes,
love that so much.
absolutely.
I
And
love that.
that's amazing. And I've tagged your website and the Facebook page, and I also put in that email so people can find you. They can just look in the comments of
Thank you so
you're
much. And
absolutely so welcome.
also, I think one more thing I would just wanted to
Yes,
share. We just started
absolutely.
just a couple weeks ago, a Recovery Speakers podcast. So you can
Awesome.
see that on pretty much any podcast streaming app on your phone.
Beautiful.
So,
All right, I put that on there too.
all right. Thank you guys so much for having
Thank
me, and I hope
you.
you have a great day.
You too,
And
Tim. Thank you so much for
Thank you
calling
so
in.
much, Tim.
all right, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye. I love that. I love that there's an option like there. I don't know if you guys know this, but there is so much healing in writing out your story. It's freeing to put that,
Just writing in
thought to
general.
paper. Yes, I mean,
Yes.
it's something I do every
Anything.
day. I have someone that sends me, actually, my business partner sends me prompts, journaling prompts and I love that. Like, I can't wait to, it's such a release, but to be able to share your story like that, and who knows who will sift through that catalog and come across your story
Right.
and it resonates so well with them that it makes it a life change.
Amazing.
Of that.
Absolutely amazing. Well, that was so good. I love hearing people's stories, especially um like I don't know. I've never done fentanyl. Well, I probably did. I'm not gonna say that. I don't know
You
everything
might
I've
have.
done. I probably definitely did, but I don't recall doing it on purpose. So,
Oh, it just got heavy on my heart to share the story that I've only shared with like two other people. Um, when you said, I don't know what I've done, I remember this boyfriend that I had who was always, he was adventurous and he was fun and he was cool and handsome and,
so cool.
you know, dealt drugs. Um, and I remember us going, and I
The
was kind of
cave.
new, right? Like, was it gay? Was it my husband?
Ex-husband.
Um, no. But I remember us going, over to he had just started dealing to this guy, and that was just our network of friends, and he was like, "We're gonna go hang out or whatever." And I had done cocaine and stuff before, but I was kind of new into all of it. And I
Yes.
remember going, and he was like, "Come in the bathroom," and I remember going in there, and he led me to believe it was cocaine, and I thought I was doing cocaine, and it was Special K.
Ooh.
It's ketamine.
Yeah.
And that's for those of you that don't know, that's like horse tranquilizer. And I remember I had no idea. I had no
Yeah.
idea. And this is a story that I will share with my kids because you don't know. You don't know what somebody's giving to you. And that man or boy, young man that I thought cared about me so much, led me to
Right.
believe that this was something. Not that cocaine's great because it's not, but it's not ketamine. And it was. I mean, I almost died. I almost felt like I died that night. I mean, that literally the feeling that it gave. And he left. He ended up going out and leaving and left because he got so jacked up that he went out for the night. And I couldn't go. And he wanted to go. And they left me at a strange person's house.
Ugh.
I was so fucked up. I couldn't find my way out of the room. It was
What is this
dark and
man's
black,
name?
and I was like dead on the floor. And then, I mean, I thought I was dying. It was horrific.
I'm gonna kill him.
And so the next morning he comes back.
What?
And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
it's the worst feeling in my I can't believe I'm sharing this with you guys. I can. I don't care. Whatever. Judge me if you want. But he comes back and he's like, ready to go like party again. I'm like, just take me home. Just take me home. I
Oh,
never
my
want to see you
love.
again. I did. I said
I was
I
gonna
did see
did
him
y'all
again.
break up?
Yeah, this was before Christina is who she is now. But like,
Right.
you don't know. You don't know. I've had to have this conversation with my 14-year-old about vaping and stuff because it's just this whole, epidemic now that they're experiencing. And I'm like, listen to me. Like, don't take a vape. First of all, it's gross, like to like share saliva with folks like that. But you don't know what's in there. Like, don't touch it.
Say no.
Just say no. Anyway, it was put on my heart to share that story with you guys. I don't know why, but
Well,
it's
somebody needed to hear it.
yeah, somebody might need to hear that. But it was really like one of those moments where I thought, and you would have thought that would, I mean, that feeling of, I mean, really, I thought I was dying. Oh, hey,
Hey,
What's
Duke.
happening?
I
Hi,
missed this
Duke.
whole, I didn't even hear anything. That's what
I'm
happens
good
when you
like that.
talk so much.
Yes, trained professionals,
Sorry.
not
We're
amateurs.
not amateurs at all.
No.
No,
15 minutes late to the show and everything today.
was
Whatever.
unavoidable.
All good.
All good. How are you, Duke?
I'm pretty good. I am just stepping out of a training on how to build world-class board. So, trying to build a board for our nonprofit has been a little overwhelming at
Oh,
times.
I can
So,
hear that. We're going through that ourselves right now. And I'm just like, I just want to love people and serve people. Why do I have to go through all of this paperwork nonsense?
oh my God. And then like managing expectations
Yes.
and, my leadership style is, lead, follow, or get out of the way. And, then it turns into an army of one.
Yep.
And why
Right.
aren't these people helping more? And, there are definitely cheerleaders and really believe in the cause. And I'm sure it's more kind of a leadership style of trying to help people figure out what they can do,
Right. Well,
or
tell
trying
us.
to
Just
get
give
the
them
right
those
people.
personality skill set tests. That's what
Right.
I've started doing. I'm like, take this. Let me figure out where to put you.
Right. I'm like, what do you like? Do it. report back.
And then you're like, you're not really good at that. Let's find something else.
You were wrong.
Right.
Well,
It
tell
appears
us
you're good at
about your
nothing.
nonprofit.
Sure. So our nonprofit's called Sober AF Entertainment.
I love that,
Safe.
by the way.
Mm.
Just love it. We
Thank
love
you.
that.
Well, it's so important because if it was called Sober Entertainment, nobody would show up.
No.
And it just proves
know
what
your
a
audience.
horrible name
Sometimes you
Sober
got to
has
drop
right
cuss
now.
words and stuff. Like, you
Oh,
got to be
yeah,
like,
it's the only way.
you got to bring it home.
Right. So how do we make sober cool is really the question.
Right.
Right. And it's my belief, and I think what we've seen is, people relapse over misery and depression. And the opposite of that is community and connection. And how do we build that is really kind of the question behind this thing. So we started this nonprofit a year and a half ago to create a sober safe section and a sober tailgate at music festivals, concerts, and sporting events. So we hosted a few sober tailgates at some different music festivals and some different concerts. And when we did our first sporting event, we sold like 250 tickets to a Rockies game within like
Wow.
10 days.
Nice.
So that's when I thought, we know there's a need. It appears there's a want. How do we build that for this community?
Mm-hmm.
And in the last year and a half, we've hosted 50 events at different major sporting events and concerts.
Wow. Amazing. I love that.
So
It really
last
is.
weekend,
The whole concept is so like innovative and like needed.
Much needed.
so we know it's needed, right? 70,000 kids overdose and die of drugs every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is it wanted? How do we prove it's wanted? How do we get the word out? Is there a misunderstanding of anonymity and people don't feel like they can join stuff like this? Are people under the misconception they need to kind of protect their sobriety so much they're afraid to go to these places?
Right.
It's kind of an interesting balancing act. And, I definitely respect people who do want, to stay sober and feel like they can in those situations.
Right.
But the flip side is we're trying to build a place where you can get a sober wing man or sober wing woman and enjoy these things.
Right.
Because I feel like as a guy who got sober at 21, if I hadn't found a community that was willing to go to Grateful Dead concerts and willing to go out and have fun, then I would have stayed home, been miserable, and drank.
Right. Same
I love
here.
that.
I mean,
I love Grateful Dead. So.
yes. Well, yes.
Well, they had the original sober support group inside their concerts called Wharf Rats. And Wharf Rats have been around since like the mid 80s.
I think I remember watching a documentary about this. Yeah, I do.
So that helped me, A, it helped me stay sober, but B, it made sobriety cool, right?
Right.
I know I could go to my 12-step meetings and I could hang out with my buddies and go to college, but I could let loose, 2 or 3 days a month and go to a Grateful Dead show and stay sober, drink Mountain Dew, smoke Marlboro Reds, but, I was not getting high, I was not getting drunk. And kind of the idea, here 30 years later is kind of similar. Is, how do we build that culture for the sober curious community and for the recovery community at sporting events and different concert venues and music festivals?
I love that sober curious because I mean, I was at a point in my life, I'm like, how do people not drink and have a good time?
Yeah.
And I
No,
remember,
truth.
I was working at a car dealership and I ran into somebody and they didn't drink. And I used to give them such a hard time. Like, how can you not drink? And I just didn't get it. It turns out like later, he never said why. He never said, well, I'm an addict, but he never said that. But I went to an NA meeting, my first, and his name was on the wall, with his clean date.
Right.
And he had been clean. His clean date was my birthday, my belly button birthday.
Oh, that's
How
cool.
crazy is that? And so that's why I even noticed the date, And then I'm looking at this man and I'm like, wow, he had been clean at that point. This was 7 years ago, I think for 14 years. So he just celebrated 21 years.
Damn.
Wow.
I know. And it's kind of funny because I gave him such a hard time and then I go like through the worst time of my life because of it. Drugs and alcohol, but very ironic. Don't make fun
Right.
of anybody. That's the
But I would
takeaway.
always say when people would be like, I mean, I just don't drink. And I would be like, wow. Like my eyes would just get so big and like look at him like,
How do
wow,
you
you're
do
like,
that?
God, how do you do that?
I had a friend who said, I'm going to prove I'm not an alcoholic and I'm not going to drink the month of November.
Right. That's a
And
thing,
just
right?
my
Or no, it's
mind
sober
exploded.
October.
Right.
Sober
Yeah.
Well, for
October.
this guy, he said November because I remember thinking like Thanksgiving's a 4-day drunk. Like there's no
Right.
way I'd be sober this month.
At the
It's the
very
Right?
least.
excuse, right? You
And you
have a
had
whole
so many
excuse.
football games in November, and just like my mind was like, well, I won't be talking to you for 30 days. That's where my mind went. Like there's just no way I could comprehend being sober for an entire month.
Right. Right. Yeah. How do you
So
even do that? Yeah.
I don't know. We're out there
How do you
trying
do
to show
that?
people on
Right.
a,
And
you
it's
know,
funny because sometimes I even look back at my life and I'm like, how did I get through that? How did I even make it through? And it gives me so much strength in like little moments of my day. I'm like, well, shit, if I could lose everything I've ever owned and everybody I've ever loved, I can pay a
This
speeding
ticket doesn't matter.
right? And
Right.
it just like gives me, like, psh, this is nothing.
But on the
Right.
wrong day, you're like, that speeding ticket, you're like, I don't know if I need to like firebomb City Hall and drink
No, right.
or
Totally.
go to a meeting.
For real. One of the funniest things I've ever heard in a meeting is like, we'll contemplate suicide over a flat tire. I'm like, totally.
Yep, man. God
It'd just be
doesn't
better
understand.
if I ended it all.
Like flipping
Over
tables.
this
I'm out of here.
Don't they understand I'm sober? I mean, where's the parade?
Right?
Right.
Do you know how hard it is?
I need for everyone to stand up and clap right now that I didn't kill
Yes.
someone because this happened.
Yes.
Where is that winning lotto ticket I was promised?
At the very least, I should be able to win the lottery.
Well, we proved last weekend that you can stay sober at the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Amazing.
So we had a sober tailgate, which included a tent and a big screen TV and barbecue and
Mhm.
a bunch of non-alcoholic drinks. We had 25 people hanging out.
That was
Having a
my
good
question.
time.
Well, the
Yeah,
food.
Christina wants to know
All
about
I,
the
re- I
food.
just so if I'm coming, I need to know that you're going to feed me well.
Yes, well,
That's
here's what
important.
we've learned. Our tailgate can't suck. It has to be better than everybody else's.
It does.
Nice.
Because if you're newly sober and you show up and it's the same 20 kids and it's a crappy tailgate, it does not help.
We're out of here.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But if it's a big screen TV, killer barbecue, Monster, Red Bulls, Cokes, Diet Cokes,
Good music.
good thumping music,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, this is cool. I can totally see this
Right.
and really
like
kind
this.
of build that belief that, you know what, I can do 90% of everything that everybody else can.
Right.
Absolutely. I
You know,
love
and if
this
you
because
can-
we're talking about in our we're starting our own recovery group and we're talking about like once a month having these outings, right?
Right.
Doing things
Doing, like,
together.
Connection
know,
and community, just like you
yes.
said. And I think it's so important to
It
have
is.
fun and to show that, because I never knew that, like, I used to think things were lame, like bowling and roller skating. I went roller skating the other week, and I don't think I've ever had more fun.
How many
than
times
that.
did you fall?
0?
Lies.
No lies.
Whatever.
I tripped a little. I didn't fall.
Okay.
I'm good at roller skating.
Completely different, right?
Yeah, it was completely different. We go with the kids, and then there's just music, and it's fun, and
Yeah.
it's like,
And you can
You know,
remember it.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
you can remember, and I'm not pissing people off, and like, waking up the next morning, why aren't they talking to me?
What did I do? Right.
And I just don't feel, that just general sense of like doom that you have when you wake up in the morning. And I just don't,
Yeah.
I'm free of that. And that alone is worth everything to me. To wake up in
Yeah.
the morning and only have to pee, that's a great feeling.
Exactly. You know where the car is. There's no missing
Yeah.
hubcaps. You know where the keys are.
I know exactly how much money is or is not in my bank
Right.
account.
There's no ATM receipt in your pocket for $300 you can't remember.
Right.
Who the hell stole my money?
It was
Right.
My
me. It was me.
Well, I was at a meeting earlier this week, and I saw a guy in the parking lot trying to get up the strength to kind of come into the meeting.
Oh,
And it just,
Mhm.
I mean, that is the majority of people. The majority of people struggle with this and I don't find recovery. And, there's so much stigma around recovery and what it's going to look like. I think this is kind of what we're trying to build with SAFE
right,
is, you can have a lot of fun in your sobriety and find other people doing the same thing.
right.
Mhm.
I
And it
remember
does,
the first time, like in my early recovery, the first time I had like laughed, and it's not like, it was like that deep, soulful, like almost peeing laugh, like,
right.
and it's like its own high, like, and it lasts for a really long time. And I remember I was like, I'm going to chase that feeling.
Right. That comes
Like, that's my
from
new
the
high.
authentic part of
Laughter.
your soul, like who you
Yes.
really are.
And it was
Yeah.
when I made the decision, I was like, I can do this. If I
Right.
can laugh like this, if I can have fun
Sober.
like this. I mean, because that's some of the reason I do certain drugs, to laugh.
Oh, yeah.
How crazy is that? Now I get to do it for free.
But that's what we find through, like, when we're chasing that feeling. We want to be happy. We
Right.
want that. And that, I'm just starting on, kind of, well, not just starting on my meditation journey, but getting deeper into it and feeling all of these different feelings that it's so cool. Like, it is so cool to just have that time with myself and be
Yep.
able to feel things that maybe I felt drunk or high or whatever.
Right.
I'm able to just feel them naturally
Yeah,
because I'm putting so much into effort into myself.
exactly. And just back into your life, making life livable, worth it. Like, I mean, I love waking up in the morning and I used to dread it. I mean, I used to sleep until the very, very, very last second. I mean, not even the last second, like 30 minutes after the last second, I should have been up.
Mm-hmm.
I was always late everywhere. And I'm talking like
Uh,
to get the kids to school,
oh yeah,
We're,
yeah, oh
we're
yeah,
like
me
30
too.
minutes late or sometimes later, I'm
Now
not
I'm
gonna
not late for
lie.
getting my kids to school anymore, but I used to
I'm
be
not
really
either,
bad
but
about that, and I
oh
used to
my
be like,
God,
it's not
so
that big of
bad.
a fucking deal. Like, why is
Right.
everybody
And
like?
it
Right.
is.
It
Like
is
my
a big
kids
deal.
hated it. They're like, "Are we late?" And like
I
even now,
know.
Annabelle, look, it's kind of funny because I now I drop them off so early that my son says, are we the first ones again?" Like hates
Again,
it.
you're not
He's
the
like,
Your
last
leaders.
ones.
yeah, he's like,
Right.
"Mama, I don't want to be first."
You're not first, you're last.
Exactly.
To that
Everybody.
point of like laughing that loud for the first time and that feeling, it's crazy how when you get it now, it's typically, being of service to somebody else or kind of getting out of yourself. And, we have the ability to help people who nobody else can really reach.
Right.
And
That's
I say
such
that a lot
amazing
too.
feeling.
I
Mhm.
love those are my favorite people, and I used to. I've stopped saying it now, like the broken or whatever, because we're we may be cracked or flawed or whatnot, but I think broken is a term we need to shy away from more and
Right.
more. I used to that was a crutch for me. It's like, well, I'm broken, and I just need to
Right.
be fixed, and that's not really who and what we are. It's not our identity, but you correlate it back to Jesus in the Bible and his favorite people, and it's just because there's just I feel like I'm able to sit with the people that others won't,
Yeah.
or are scared to sit, and most of the time these people are the most incredible people that you will ever come across. You
Absolutely.
you
Who doesn't
won't.
want somebody with a story to tell?
Right, that's fascinated that you're just
Right.
hanging on every word. Those
Yeah.
are the people I want in
Especially
my life.
the perfectly flawed, right?
Oh,
These are our
Yes,
beautiful.
people.
Yes, yes. I love that. That's so beautiful.
it is. It
It is.
is.
And I tell
Well, we
my,
would
go ahead.
love for you ladies to come on your next adventure to the Iron Bowl. We are going to have a sober tailgate at the Alabama at Auburn football game
Woo,
on
we're
the
coming.
30th of November.
Yes.
When is it? Let me put it in my calendar because if I don't do it
And
now,
then send it to me.
if I don't do, I'll send a calendar invite. How about that?
Saturday, November 30th. They haven't quite picked the time yet, but we'll have a big screen TV. We'll have a tent, chairs, food, barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Obviously, not alcoholic drinks, but
Mocktails. You guys should do
yeah,
mocktails. You do that?
No.
Mocktails like seltzer water and mint and stuff.
yeah.
Fun.
We've
No, you
been
can't do that.
approached
I
by
mean, you
different
can.
companies, but they've
Oh,
been like CBD waters and non-alcoholic beer companies so far. So
Well,
I'm just letting them know, hey,
just
that's
need
not
like fun stuff like
what we
that.
do.
yeah. Just you don't need anything.
You
You don't
don't.
need anything.
You don't.
Well,
I
we
mean,
need to
I
drink.
need water.
I mean,
Well,
that's
you
the
need
thing,
water.
right?
Maybe
We do need a beverage for the recovery community.
There should be something other than like Monster and
Well, that's what I'm
coffee.
saying. Like mocktails are
Yeah.
like they're you make up your own seltzer waters, cranberry juice, fruit, fresh
Right.
fruits, mint, and you're like making a concoction, like you can even have like I mean maybe
You know what? It
like
should be like
bartenders that make
a natural
mocktails.
juice. Like we should have a Jack LaLanne and
Yes.
make you know what I mean? And like we'll get
I would love that.
yes. Because
All right, ladies, I think you found your calling.
it.
I actually have. I
are
know
gonna
someone
bring
that
some
does
drinks.
that. There's a
We're gonna
food
bring the
company called
drinks.
Yum here that I need to get in touch with him. He does all these incredible juices and stuff. He would love to do that.
That would be amazing. Maybe we'll bring
Invite
him
him.
with us. Yes.
I'll get in touch with him.
You tell them we'll feed them up on barbecue.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And so, just for the record, we'll have this tailgate 2 hours before the game.
Okay.
We'll have the TV on during the game, and then we're going to tailgate 2 hours after the game. So there's the before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. We're going to have
Beautiful.
It's all
all
day
of
long.
this
How
all day
fun.
long.
I'm just gonna put it on that day. I don't know. We'll get with you on times and stuff.
Right on.
But I'll just go ahead and save it in my thing so I have it. Because if I don't put it in here, you won't see me.
Right. Well, we're partnering with the collegiate recovery community at Auburn. So
That is so
they're going to be
amazing.
bringing a bunch of guys. We've done that with the University of Georgia, the University of Michigan, Penn State University, Maryland University, Colorado University, University of Denver. We're looking to do it with the UCLA group when we go out to LA for UCLA at USC. So we are
Amazing.
trying to create this movement and invite as many people as possible to it.
Beautiful.
That's lovely.
When we talked earlier, I really did love your story about, why you started this. You want to tell us a little?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you.
Yes.
So, like I said, a year and a half ago, we started our nonprofit, and it was out of the necessity or out of really my fear. My daughter was 20 years old at the time and was texting me from a music venue here in Colorado saying all of her friends had taken ecstasy and she didn't feel safe going home with them because they were driving and she wanted to take an Uber home. And I was really proud of her decision.
Right.
But I'm just like, oh my God, this kid's going to do cocaine with fentanyl in it. And I'm going to get the phone call that she's dead.
Yeah.
We need to do something now. So, I was 29 years sober at the time. And, I mentioned kind of the wharf rat, making sobriety cool. And I just knew like, look, sobriety is awesome. We just know how awkward it is in early sobriety. How do we help kids kind of push through that early stage? And we came up with this idea of Sober AF and Sober Tailgate, Sober Section movement at places that, typically aren't very sober, basically music festivals and concerts. So we kind of started this idea based on that. And our first Sober Tailgate was actually at Bass Nectar, which is a DJ electronic dance music, and they have their own sober support inside. So we just did the Sober Tailgate outside and just kind of built it up. And once we started throwing in sports, we started getting more momentum. And my daughter calls it the dad zone. She knows she's safe. No one's going to
Nice.
inappropriately come up to her.
Right.
And, you don't have to worry about being roofied and all the other baloney these kids have to worry about these days. So she's been coming with 4 or 5 of her sorority sisters. And, we partnered with the Colorado Avalanche. We're going to do a sober tailgate on New Year's and have a sober section in there and sell a couple hundred tickets.
Beautiful.
So that was kind of how the idea came about. And the shocking thing is we have no competition. There's
I was
nobody
going to
else
say
out
that
there doing
you've
it.
hit a niche that no one else has.
I was just thinking, I'm like, we need this in Atlanta.
Yeah.
For the peach ball drop and, for
That's
for
what I was
all the
thinking.
things
That's
that,
why I
like,
brought
I
up our
mean,
events when we're
yeah.
talking about doing events. Like we want to do the fun stuff.
Yeah, there's no reason we can't have fun. I mean, that's the whole point of life, I think, is joy and happiness and laughter. You want to get to a state where that's possible, I think 99% of the time, I
Right on.
really
Right.
think that that's possible. I mean, of course it's possible.
So we've added software to our website so people can host their own sober tailgates, and then we promote theirs nationally
Beautiful.
for kind of major concerts and major sporting events. So that is a new pivot that we've kind of added to our nonprofit, and really that's where I see we're going to host 30 a year, and then the community hosts another 300 in rural areas that don't have 12 steps, or
Right.
somebody wants to do something in their own area, we'll send some balloons and some policies and procedures like what we've done to kind of manage our own tailgates in the sober sections. And then, we'll promote the heck out of it, and people can find, something in their state happening that month.
That's awesome. I love
It
that.
really is. It's so creative, Really it is.
Absolutely.
Genius.
And, well, thank you. And, God's in the room because, the way it's all unfolded. And
Right.
I believe that there will be some prevention money coming down the track from some of the opiate settlements. We've applied for a bunch of grants.
Beautiful.
We have some charter memberships with some treatment centers here in Colorado where we give them 20 tickets to 4 events. So every quarter they're at a Nuggets or an Avalanche or Rockies or
Awesome.
University of Colorado football game.
Yes.
And then we go to that treatment center and speak for an hour. So really, what I thought we'd be a little more along fundraising wise with kind of individual donors.
Uh-huh.
So we're still trying to figure that component out.
It's
I thought
tough.
I'd be a lot
Yes.
better at that component.
It'll come. It'll come.
It will. It will, all in its time. It is tough. I know I have to pray over that part too, and just kind of put it out into the universe and know that it'll come when it does.
Right.
It is tough though.
But recovery is it's always in the news, and the more we just, shine the light on it that we're doing good things and that, we're trying to save people's lives, and the more I think that happens, the more people will just want to give. It'll just be like a natural, oh yes, I know this is a great
Mhm.
cause. And honestly, recovery or addiction really is so far reaching. Anytime I talk to somebody, and I'm talking random conversations,
Yeah.
they can relate in some
Yep,
way
me too.
themselves or a family member or a friend, there's always something.
Someone has been
Always.
touched by it
Yes.
in some way. That and
Because
in the mental health community,
Yes.
someone and I know you're probably just like me. It just happens. Every
just
single
happens, like, every ti-
conversation that I
yeah.
have with someone, because you're always like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, this is
Exactly.
what I do." Like,
Yeah,
and I
and they're
can't
like,
wait to tell them. They're like,
"Oh,
"Oh, yeah,
Right.
my dad's brother's uncle and my cousin and my best friend and my." I'm
Yep.
like, God,
Yep. Yep.
It's
Yep.
Well, it's
everywhere.
interesting when it comes to the media. All they really want to report on is the problem.
Right.
Yes.
Like,
You
why
know?
are we not talking about what
The
we're doing on
solution,
the
which
other
is
side?
right.
But and
So
that's why I keep
shocked
saying
there's
recovery
less solution.
revolution because we're
Right.
just now
Yes.
stepping into that. I think we're
Right.
just now opening up the floodgates to that. So what we're doing, we are on the forefront of something very big and very huge.
Right.
The media will follow the more we share, the more we do,
Right.
they'll
And
follow.
I think this next generation is not fallen for the Madison Avenue idea that you have to get wasted to have fun that was sold in the 60s.
Right.
And they're drinking a lot less. I think they're smoking a little more weed than other generations.
Right.
But they're definitely not, I think beer consumption or amount of beer sold is down 5 or 7 years in a row in the United States.
Wow, I
So
didn't know that.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that either. That's amazing.
So, and I think like hard alcohol's been down for like 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
So, I think this generation's kind of figuring that component out.
Right. And just like
Um,
smoking cigarettes, we've kind of like that's a huge taboo where doctors used to prescribe it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
mean if that can happen with cigarettes, it can happen with anything. And soon we're going to get to a point where we care about ourselves so much and we love ourselves so much that we don't need anything to fill the hole inside.
I think that
it comes
that's a
from
big
within.
component of it,
Mhm.
right? I really hope that kind of sober tailgates does turn into this, component where people put their phones down, and it is a little less tribal, and red tie and blue tie can come together,
Right.
and we learn to work together, instead of kind of my side is right and your side's 100% wrong. That
Right.
it feels like is going on right now.
Exactly. I like that little meme. But it's like one guy's on this side, the other guy's on the other side, and they're looking at a 6 or a 9. And depending on which side they're looking at, they're both right.
Right.
Yeah, but we know we're right, right?
We're right.
Of course. I was just saying this earlier today when I was like I am just the kind of person that will sit and listen to anyone talk about anything, and I may say how I feel, but I'm
Right.
always so open to listening to your like, how did you do it, or if it's different from me, well, how and why, and asking those questions, but knowing that like it's a safe space, and I don't want to disagree with you. I just want to talk to you, and if you can't have that conversation with me, then
Yeah.
I don't have it.
And I've found myself like lately, and this could be, I don't know, that I have like this intolerance towards intolerance. And I'm like, I don't know. And but I'm recognizing it, like I guess acceptance or recognition is like the first step. So, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm really intolerant to people who have no tolerance for people. So am I the same? And I'm like, you know, I'm the same as that, and I want to be, so it's even like evolving even bigger, a bigger change.
And that's kind
You
of that's when I
know?
say, well, I understand that you feel the way that you do, but I would really appreciate you respecting the way that I do. And if we can't continue this conversation, then that's
Right.
okay. But like, I'm not going to continue. Like, we're not doing this anymore.
Right. I
You
don't
know?
know. Lately, it's been really triggering me if like somebody's rude to somebody else. Like, huh,
Yeah, you don't have to
Yeah.
be
I'm
like
about to be rude to you,
Right.
for being rude to them.
that. Which is hello.
So it
Yeah.
makes sense, right?
No, not at all. But
I feel very similar in that aspect. Like, there's only a couple things that really set me off, but if they do, I'm like, sorry, you got about 2 more minutes, and then,
Right.
right, we don't and you don't
I'm
even
gonna
have
move
to.
on.
That's where I'm at. Like, I don't even have to be, because usually that would be very triggering for me. But I've gotten to the space where I'm like, okay, well, that's just how you are, and okay, just kind
Right.
of walk away.
I'm not there.
I'm not going to tell you what I say in my head,
Right.
but
But
I
think
have
about
to
it.
just
How
walk
many
away.
hills are you willing to die on, right?
Yeah,
How
and
many
that's
Right.
battles are
exactly
you
it. I'm
willing
not
to
willing
pick?
to die on this hill today.
Right.
This is not my
Exactly.
I'm like,
thing. This is not. I'm not
And I
doing
guess,
it.
for the most part, I can pretty much walk away from like 95% of situations. Just that 5% that just like really irk me. And I'm really only thinking of like one specific instance, but
well, I will fight
Hard.
for my kid, and I
yeah,
will fight for my recovery. I mean, those are the two
those are the
areas
two.
that,
Yeah,
guns out. This is something that I know deep to my soul. These are the things that are important to me. And, if either one kind of feels threatened,
yeah.
I know what to do or say typically.
Exactly. It's funny you say that about, fight with your kids. My daughter told me recently, she's like, Mom, sometimes I can't tell you things because you try to solve it. And I'm like, do I? She's like,
Oh.
yeah, you're all gung ho.
I just want you to
I'm like, I'm
listen.
sorry, I just don't like when people treat you bad.
Yeah, that's just that's who we are as mothers.
Sometimes I just
so.
get like this mama bear attitude.
Me
Like, how
too.
dare you?
Yeah, me too.
So working on
Luckily, I've
it.
got a 14-year-old who like she takes up for herself now. Like she just puts people. She'll tell me about it. I don't have to be mad because she's already handled that shit. Like she's already owned it and said, "I don't think so." Like so that's fun.
I guess that's what
Ah,
yeah.
That so helps.
It does
So-
help, and I think that she's well on her way to being the same way. Yours.
Annabelle?
Yeah, Annabelle.
God.
So
Yes.
I don't think you'll have to worry about that too much longer.
Not even a little bit. The proudest I've ever been of her is there was this little girl in her class and she was bullying a lot of the other kids. And I got at the end of the day, I came and picked her up, and her teacher said, she's like, look, I'm not even going to tell anybody about this, but Annabelle slapped this girl in the face because she had made 3 people cry today, and she was sick of it.
She was done.
And I honestly,
mama came out and
she
then-
like came out and she goes, I'm not apologizing. That's what Anna, my daughter, said. I'm not apologizing.
Good for
The
her.
sheriff laid down the law.
She did, and she's like, and that's maybe she got that from me, an intolerance to intolerant people.
Well, now
Don't
that's
you give
where
them
I
3
will
chances?
say.
Yeah, she did give her. You made
I
3
mean,
people cry.
3 people cried. That's
No,
stepping over the line. You've crossed a boundary there,
Yeah.
and you need to be put in your place. Some people do.
she did. I think it was
Yeah.
like the director's granddaughter,
Oh,
like the principal of the school was her granddaughter.
I'm not going to say anything to that. Let's leave that alone. I'm not going to touch that.
Well, hey,
It's what it is.
It is what it is.
Well, I can't be more excited. I've got this on my calendar for November 30th.
Yes, we're
The
The
very
biggest
excited.
game of the year, the Iron Bowl.
Woo! I'm excited.
Barbecue, big screen TVs, hanging out with a bunch of your people
Just feed me.
for
Just feed
Yes,
me.
6,
and
8,
anybody
10
who wants to
hours.
come with us, you just let us know.
Yeah, well,
That's right.
I'm
Yeah.
not driving. Who's
I will
driving?
drive.
I'll be.
So we
the
have
DJ.
I
no
have
age
3 rows
requirements. If you
seats.
want to bring your kids, you can bring your kids.
Awesome.
We just ask that they're sober during the event. So that's our only requirement.
Well, we may
Perfect.
medicate ours because they're, a little Benadryl or whatever. So I'm just kidding. I'm
Understood.
kidding.
Understood. Bailey's. Try a little Bailey's. That usually works on. Just kidding.
Melatonin.
Right.
That's the new
The
drug.
new drug.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
we so appreciate
Yes,
you.
and
I
I'm-
loved today. I loved being able to highlight something like this.
This is beautiful.
Wait, well,
yes.
our website is soberafe.com. And our Facebook page is Sober AF Entertainment. Check us out and like us. That's how we typically get news out to our people of the different events. And like I said, we were in Georgia for Notre Dame, Georgia earlier this year. We were just in Jacksonville, Florida. We're going to LA.
Awesome.
We're obviously going to be in Alabama. So this year, sport-wise, we've been, at least the last couple months, I've been super busy. And look forward to speaking with you guys and talking about either a partnership or something there, or coming out and
Absolutely.
hosting another sober tailgate for some music in
we
Atlanta.
would love to do
love,
that. We would love to.
Love.
Please let us do that.
Yes.
I'm not the only one that loves food. Brady Smith is like, barbecue. Question
There we
mark,
go.
exclamation point, exclamation point. Yes, Brady.
Yes,
Barbecue.
barbecue.